Hey everybody, this is Doug Gordon, and you are about to hear a preview of a bonus episode that we are releasing just for our Patreon supporters. If you want to hear the whole thing, you can go to patreon.com/thewaroncarspod and sign up to support us at just $3 per month. We are supported by listeners like you. In order for us to keep the podcast going and growing, we really depend on listener support. So sign up, we'll send you stickers. Not only will you get access to bonus content like this one, but you'll get early access to live show tickets. You'll get ad-free versions of regular shows. We will send you free stickers and a whole lot more. So again, go to patreon.com/thewaroncarspod. And thank you very much. To the point of car noise, I think one thing I would love for listeners to pay attention to when it rains, notice how loud the roads are. Mm-hmm. Same amount of traffic as a dry day. That's because a lot of the noise that comes from cars is not the engine, it's the rolling noise. And rain and bad weather can accentuate that. Snow can have the opposite effect, of course. But yeah, the noise was really striking. It was just so quiet. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, I just looked this up today that about 50% of the noise that cars make comes from the tire roll.
Certainly at higher speeds. I think once you get over like 30 miles an hour, it really changes.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. Noise. Okay, so this next one though is a really big one.
Okay.
And that is what we here at the War on Cars and elsewhere in the quote unquote urbanist community, however you want to define that. Don't call it parking, call it car storage.
Oh yes.
Snow really highlights how much real estate we give for free, and not really for free because it's subsidized by our taxpayer dollars, to the storage of private automobiles on public streets.
And people who park at the curb for free have all sorts of strategies of how to deal with snowstorms. They have to park on one side rather than the other because the snowplows push the snow to one side rather than the other.
The snowplows push the snow to the right. So if you're a savvy parker, you park on the left side of your street on a one-way street.
They put their windshield wipers up.
That's my favorite.
Like little antennae. And then, of course, they have to shovel out their cars at some point. And having been frozen in a few weeks ago, people on my block, at least, were trying to be really kind of on it. They're like, I'm not going to get frozen in again like that. I'm going to shovel my car out sort of as the storm is happening and as it just ends. So as a homeowner, it's my responsibility to shovel the sidewalk in front of my house, and it has to be at least 4 feet wide in order to comply with city regulations, and I can be fined if I don't do that.
You are responsible for the public right-of-way.
Yes.
The sidewalk is a public right-of-way, and it's just the way through a quirk of our laws that individual homeowners and property owners are responsible for but nobody tells drivers, hey, you have to shovel the street. The city does that for them. Yeah,
and not only that, they normally have to move their cars so that the city can clean the garbage off of the street. That's alternate side parking. Well, alternate side parking has been suspended since
I think it's only been in effect for like 2 weeks this year so far.
I mean, it's just they basically, so not only is there a lot of garbage everywhere, but those people, they don't think, oh, I should be picking up the garbage that's under my car because it can't be swept away. I was doing that too, by the way. I cleared out a lot of garbage. And then, I mean, we do have to talk maybe quite briefly here about another sort of disgusting thing.
Yes, that's the dog poop. I did want to talk about a little bit more about car storage, but the dog poop, it's like the entire social contract just got broken down, ripped up, and thrown out and left under one of the cars in the street. I don't know what happened to dog owners that they feel like as soon as it snows, they don't have to pick up their poop, as if like the snow is some magical solution that will dissolve it into nothingness. It's one thing for there to be yellow snow everywhere. Like that's just going to happen.
Yeah.
But it was like our city council person, Shahana Hanif, put out a video saying directly to dog owners, like, pick up your shit. She literally said, pick up your shit. Eric Botcher, who's a city council member, now state senator in Manhattan, he also put out stuff saying there is no poop fairy. You are responsible. So, like, I've never seen, it's like if you wondered what New York City was like before pooper scooper laws, the winter is a good picture into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But back to car storage.
Yeah. So a lot of urbanists or activists, they will point to all of the cars covered in snow for weeks after the storm. I mean, there were cars on my block for 3 weeks afterwards that still had snow on them and around them, clearly hadn't been moved in all that time, and say, see, drivers don't need their cars as frequently as they say, certainly not in neighborhoods like ours where most people, based on census data and other information, they are not using a car as their primary means of commuting to work. They're using transit. And they're really only using their cars for like the Costco trip on the weekend or the Hamptons house or the Catskills or something like that. I think there's another thing going on, which is that even the drivers who do use their cars more than the vacation house trip, for example, when you limit the supply of parking, you make it harder for people to drive. And so what happens is my car is snowed in. Sure, fine. But I also know all the other cars are snowed in around the city. And then, in fact, some of the parking spaces are just giant piles of snow that the plows have pushed everything into, that crews have shoveled into empty spots. And you say to yourself as a driver, I could shovel my car out, but where would I take it? Mm-hmm. There would be no way for me to park it in the space I normally park it in the neighborhood I like to drive to on the weekends or on a weeknight or to work or whatever. And so I think it's a really good natural experiment in the laws of supply and demand. We know, especially in cities, that the number one indicator of whether or not a person is going to drive for their trip is if they're going to have parking on both ends of their trip. And when there's snow and it limits the supply, a number of people are saying to themselves, I know I won't have parking on the other end of my trip. I might not even have it when I get back because there are so few spots opening up. So I think there's a lesson there for cities, which is just simply limit the supply of parking. If you want to reduce driving, a lot of people have pointed to all of the people storing their cars and saying, this is why we should charge for on-street parking. And we could probably do an episode on whether or not that's a good idea in cities like New York. There are parking permits in plenty of cities. I'm not really in favor of charging for parking in New York because I think it would add a level of entitlement to drivers that they already have. It would just increase that entitlement because they would say, oh, you want to put a bike lane on my street? You want to put a bike corral on my street? You want to put in a bioswale? F you, I pay $65 a year for parking or whatever, whatever ridiculous low fee it would be, even if it was $300 a year. I think the better trick is to just limit the supply. And snow reveals that in a very striking way, not just the snow-covered cars, but it would be very interesting to see are more kids walking and taking transit to school because their parents are like, I can't drive you. There'll be nowhere to park when I get back. That'd be a really interesting thing to see. So car storage, end rant.